Hello, good morning, and welcome to this Dawn Busters Taste Challenge. I have two whiskeys, and neither one of them have a website. So if you try to look it up, you're not going to get anywhere. There was a website listing for very old Barton, but it's gone now. Okay, so this is very old Barton, but it's not really very old because it's only been on the market since 1964. Now, to some people, that would be seeming to be very old. I mean, it's older than me, but I mean, very old would be like 150 years ago. You know what I mean? Not 60 years ago. Um, this is the 86 proof green stripe label. See if it'll focus. It's from Barton Distilling Company, Barton Brands of Bardstown, Bardstown, Kentucky, Barton 1792 Distillery. Some bottles of different Barton products will list Chicago, Illinois. So there may be a office there. I don't know about a bottling plant. Okay, it finally focused. Thank you. Bought this in Pascagoula, Mississippi. Never seen a Barton product in Louisiana in my life. I mean, I've seen some of their products, but not a Barton labeled product. I bought the 80 proof in Frankfort, Kentucky in 2017. It was only a half size bottle, so that didn't last very long. Bought this 4 years ago, like I'm telling you, in Pascagoula, Mississippi. All right, it was $11.99, I think. I'm pretty sure that was the price. All right, no age statement. And like I said, 2 weeks ago, the website disappeared. It might have been less than two weeks ago. Here's George Dickel, Tennessee Sour Mash Whiskey, or Old Fashioned Cascade Hollow. Now, Cascade Hollow batch recipe, distilled and charcoal mellowed at George A. Dickel Company, Tullahoma, Tennessee. So they do chill filtering and charcoal filtering with this. So it says Cascade Hollow Distillery, which I'd like to tour. Be nice. Age 3 years. So it's a young whiskey. Now, they don't say straight whiskey, though. Notice George Dickel, their products don't really ever say straight whiskey, established 1870. But the U.S. government trademark office says this was trademarked in 2018. But I think it was on the market longer than 2018, and it's no longer made. They don't make this red label Cascade Hollow anymore. And if I'm looking at this right, this thing was not trademarked. There's no trademark indication for Cascade Hollow. So I think that's what happened. It was on the market for a while. Then they decided, we don't have a trademark on this. We might want to do that just in case. So they did it. And then it wasn't long after they discontinued it. But it might come back. Who knows? They might make it again. I doubt it, but they might. Now, this is an embossed clear glass bottle, typical George Dickel shape, but it's a liter bottle, 1,000 milliliters. It's got a little essay on the side about the George Dickel distillery. Like, it's a pretty long essay. George Dickel's owned by Diageo, same people that own Crown Royal and Johnny Walker. So they're and Guinness. Well, Guinness is Diageo. They actually changed the name to Diageo instead of calling it Guinness Liquor Company. No, I mean, but that's another story because of a bunch of buyouts. These buyouts happen. But I paid $7.99. True story. $7.99 at Discount Depot in Marrero, Louisiana, U.S. Highway 90 business route westbound. That's a pretty great place. Not as great as Savannah Discount, but pretty cool place. And they had like about 8 bottles on the shelf. I'm thinking like it was 8 bottles. So I was like, man, $7.99. I'm buying one from me, which I still have all these years later, and one from my friend David. Well, he brought it to the Hot Rock shop and it lasted about a week. You know, I don't even know if it lasted a week. They liked it, but those 8 bottles didn't stay on the shelf. They probably didn't stay on the shelf 5 days, not for $7.99. Aspie Trip says, "How's your health, sir?" Seems to be good. I don't take any medicine. Take aspirin. Not aspirin. What am I saying? Vitamin C once a day, 500 milligrams. Seems to help me not to catch colds so much and all that. I mean, it's not ironclad perfect, but it seems to help, because when I used to teach high school, kids always be sick and stuff, and then you be getting sick. So I started taking that once a day, and it seemed to really help. Okay, so there it is, George Dickel Cascade Hollow, seen at no store near you, unless, like I said, he might have some leftover bottles, but I don't think that's too likely. Now, naturally, every liquor store in America is going to have George Dickel, the black label, or the khaki label, the number 12, the number 8 or number 12. I never had the number 8 yet, but one day I probably will. But this is an oddity. Very Old Barton. Yeah. Distribution not good. So you could make the argument, like, why are you even wasting your time with the video? Because probably 90% of the viewers can't get either one. Yeah, I can't really say you're wrong by saying that, honestly. But I mean, I'm just doing it, you know. But I don't expect a lot of interest in the video. Good to hear. Ever heard of trying rye whiskey? Yeah, I feel that kids are dangerous. Haha. Yeah, with illness. Yes, I have tried rye whiskey many times, and I have a number of rye whiskey video reviews on this channel. And I do rye whiskey taste challenges like I'm doing this one. Okay, good. I finally poured it where it wasn't so much. And this is the Dickel, right? Yeah, it's darker. Not, but barely darker. So it's just a shade darker, so I won't have to close my eyes. But I was wondering, like, why they don't call it straight whiskey? This thing isn't going to focus. But I started thinking, I think they're adding flavoring to it. Now, it just says whiskey, you see. I'm holding my hand up, trying to make it focus. Campfire music. It's fun to learn. It is fun to learn. I agree. I love your videos for years. Oh, thank you. Let's look up Tennessee whiskey, the regulations. I'm pretty sure I'm on the right track with this. You say, what is Tennessee whiskey? Well, it's whiskey from Tennessee. Makes sense, right? Okay. Makes total and complete sense. But we want to be a little bit more specific on that. Here's a distilling company from Tennessee, Bogue Sound Distillery. What is the difference between Tennessee whiskey and bourbon? Initially, they are the same. The requirements state that both must be distilled from at least 51% corn and aged in charred new oak barrels. However, the differences lie in the filtering process. The filtering requirement, known as the Lincoln County process, states that Tennessee whiskey must go through a maple charcoal filtering process prior to barreling. So they got to filter through charcoal, maple wood charcoal. Well, that one it says charcoal. The process takes away much of the bitter whiskey flavoring and leave behind a smoother spirit. Is it smoother than bourbon? We will let you be the judge of that. Well, actually, filtering it through charcoal, whether it's maple or any other type of wood, is irrelevant to what bourbon is. Okay. So just because you take a bourbon and you drip it through charcoal, it's not suddenly not a bourbon. You know, it's not like a magic potion and suddenly it's Tennessee whiskey. Ding, ding, ding. No, it's simply bourbon that was dripped through charcoal to filter it, and they call it Tennessee whiskey. So really, Tennessee whiskey is a type of bourbon, if you want to get technical, which is what we're doing right now, getting technical. 2013 state law, that's right. That's the law. It only applies to Tennessee anyway. Tennessee doesn't pass laws for Alabama, and they don't pass laws for Mississippi, so they couldn't tell them what to do anyway. Here's some other requirements. Manufactured in Tennessee, common sense. Filtered through maple charcoal prior to aging. Filter it, then age it. Filter it, then age it, then filter it. Don't filter it at all. Chill filter it. Don't charcoal filter it. Doesn't make it not bourbon. It's just different ways of making bourbon. 51% corn, distilled to no more than 160 proof, or 80% alcohol. Same rule for bourbon. Age in new charred oak barrels. Same rule for bourbon. Placed in barrel at no more than 125 proof. Same for bourbon. Bottle at no less than 80 proof. Same for bourbon. As you can see, I'm reading the website. Tennessee whiskey also meets the standards put forth for bourbon. However, Tennessee whiskey enthusiasts believe it to be a class of all on its own. Right. Now, I like the way they said that. Believe it to be in a class all its own. But that's not the law. That's just a belief that you might believe in, and that's fine with me if you want to believe it. So anyway, notice they didn't say anything about age at least 2 years or anything about straight bourbon. So I think that's bringing me down to the riddle here. I think George Dickel very carefully does not list straight whiskey on their label. And that's why it's got that peculiar Flintstone vitamin flavor. I'm not saying they're using Flintstone vitamins as their natural flavoring, but it's strange. Okay. Because if you add flavoring to a whiskey, you can't call it straight whiskey. I mean, you can add the flavoring, go ahead, add it. Fine. Early Times got flavoring in it, natural flavors. Early Times is popular, people buy it. It's not wildly popular, but it's got a following, no doubt. But it's never called straight whiskey. Notice the label. And by the way, whiskey can be spelled both ways. S-K-Y or S-K-E-Y. That's not a legal thing. This one's S-K-E-Y. This one's K-Y. The U.S. government, by the way, spells it like they do in Scotland and Canada, W-H-I-S-K-Y. No E. But you can spell it with an E or without an E. It doesn't matter. It's not the law. It's just, I don't know. It's the way people want to spell it. Okay, now in Scotland, it's spelled without the E. In Ireland, it's spelled with the E. In Canada, without the E. And over there, that's a legal way, you know. But all right. Good morning, Jay. Your shave job looks sharp, my friend says. Yeah. Oh, thank you. I got to shave again before I go to church later. All right. Okay, aroma. Well, it just smells like corn, people. A lot of corn, and that's basically what it is. A whole lot of corn with a little bit of rye and a little bit of wheat and a little bit of barley. Perhaps. There it is, Dickel. The only rule is it has to be at least 51% corn. The other 49% is totally up to the distiller. Well, they can make it 100% corn if they choose to. Might taste a little strange, but they can do it. It's totally up to you. So the bourbon regulations are really not that strict. When you think about it, bourbon regulations are really not that strict. You know, there's a top limit on how strong it can be. There's a bottom limit on how weak it can be. And there's a rule on what kind of barrels it has to be aged in. But other than that, do it any kind of way you want. You don't even have to age it for 2 years. That's a rumor that people spread. bourbon has to be aged at least 2 years. That's not true. Now, you could age it 2 weeks. It'd probably be terrible, but you could do it. Wouldn't be straight bourbon. Now, it has to be 2 years to be straight bourbon. They even say that on the Jim Beam, those old Jim Beam commercials. The law, 2 years. Yeah, for straight bourbon. You say, but I want to make crooked bourbon. Well, age it 2 weeks. I wonder what the percent of corn that one has in it. Oh, these two? I don't know. They don't give a mash bill on it, so it's a mystery. But I know this one smells like Flintstone vitamins, and it is the Cascade Hollow, and I got it without even tasting it. I'm going to guarantee you that. Got it. Ding, 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 ding. So George Dickel whiskeys are so unusual in my nose and in my taste that you cannot confuse it with something else because they don't smell like anything else. And I'm unanimous in that. Is it a bad smell? Well, no. Not really something I like. Is it a bad flavor? No, not really something I like, but it's good, I guess. Taste time. Now, I had some people try to challenge me on that Tennessee whiskey bourbon thing, and I told them, don't do that. I don't recommend you doing that. But they still wanted to come at me. But they got shut down, You say, you're bragging, you're not so great. No, I'm not bragging at all. Because I'm not bragging. It's not me that shut it down. The law shut them down. The regulation, I didn't make the law. Okay, I didn't make the regulations. I did not write the law. I did not pass it. I was not involved in the law in any way. But I know what it says. I could read straight from the document. I don't have to read a secondary source. I could go straight to a primary source. So if you're going to jump up with all of this talk, you might want to know what you're talking about. I'm just saying, at least know what you're talking about. And and if I get into it, like if you challenge me to a bet, like I bet you $100, well, you're going to lose. Cause I never bet. I don't ever bet. Like I don't care about gambling at all. So if I say, okay, that means I know the answer. I'm not taking a chance. I know I'm going to win. So that's a warning to somebody. If I ever make a bet with you, then I didn't take a chance because I know already. If I wasn't sure, I would never bet. I just wouldn't do it. Now, that's just the way. I don't care about gambling. I'm sorry. I'm not opposed to gambling. If that's what you want to do with your money, go ahead. It makes no difference to me, especially since your interests don't conflict with my interests because you're not using my money. So it's fine. Now, if you wanted the government to bail you out, that would be a problem because it's part of my money. Okay. So anyway, is very Old Barton a wonderful product? No. Is it a fabulous product? No. What do you think it's going to be for $11.99? It can't be those things, but it's a nice product and it's enjoyable and I like it. It's nice, enjoyable, pleasant, mild, mellow. Could you say it was kind of bland? There's not a whole lot going on there. Yeah, I think you could say that. But I think a lot of people that buy bourbon, they're not worried about all this fireworks and it has to be like zigzag disco, exploding plastic, inevitable. If it's just a nice bourbon, they'll drink it, it's like, oh, that's a nice bourbon. That's it. It's like me with beer. If it's a nice beer, I'll drink it. Doesn't have to be this big, flashy, fancy thing. Now, if it tastes bad, then consequently, I won't drink it. If it tastes just average, I won't drink it. I want it to be good. Makes sense, I think. Cascade Hollow. It's good, but it's strange. And it has that kind of Canadian whiskey flavoring thing going on with it. And I'm not even joking about that. Like John Danile says, almond extract. Tastes like that, or almonds or vanilla. It's almost like you can't pin it down. Is it almond? Is it vanilla extract? Is it pecan oil. I don't know what it is. But if they're adding a flavoring, at least I know it's a natural flavoring. It's not artificial flavoring, because that's not allowed. You would have to state that. You would have to put artificial flavor in. But if it's a natural flavor, you don't even have to tell people you're doing it. Could they be adding caramel color to it? Certainly could be. Once again, I can't say they are, can't say they aren't. Probably they are not. But then again, it's just a 2018 bottle, 319th day of 2018. That's pretty clear. But it doesn't say trademark. That's probably before the trademark went into effect. And it's funny that they got a trademark, then about a year later they canceled it, discoded it. Oh well, I found it, and now I'm tasting it. Is it a good product? Yes. Is it enjoyable? Yes. Is it smooth? Yes. Is it nice? Yes. Is it fabulous? No. Is it wonderful? No. Is it great? No. Is it amazing? No. Is it cheap? Well, it's for me, $7.99 a liter. Ding, ding. A lot of people say, I'll ring that bell. I'll ring that bell, because that's where I'm at on these things, especially with this economy and people's finances and how much you got to pay for a car, automobile, and house note. I mean, look, when you got these house notes people got to pay, and car notes, you notice that a lot of this fancy pants bourbon and everything and craft beer has been hitting the skids. There's probably a relationship to that. Why has craft beer been on the decline? Well, because it's exorbitantly expensive and people can't afford it in many cases. And thirdly, the market was flooded. Every time you turn around, some new product, and it was like replicated, like the same thing, and but it was a different way, and that. And then a lot of it was like slipshod quality. I mean, you got everybody running around throwing out some craft beers, and I guess it's the same way with bourbon, whiskey. And it's like, well, man, I paid all this money for this thing here. And I always use that baseline. Like, if it's not better than natural ice, there's a problem here. And I had some people totally misunderstand what I was saying about that. And they were trying to like say, oh, you think natural ice is as good as all these great craft beers. I was like, you don't pay attention to the videos, apparently, because I didn't say that. I said, if this expensive craft beer is not even as good as natural ice, which I could get for $20 a 30 pack, that is a problem. You can't see why that's a problem? It's a reference point. It's a baseline. Okay, come on, think. It's okay to do that. You ever thought about making homemade mead? No, I never even thought about drinking mead, except one time when they had a can for 99 cents because the can got damaged, so I bought it. Okay, so verdict on George Dickel. It's worth buying, but you can't find this red label probably. So, okay, I give the win to Barton's, very Old Barton. Doesn't really run away with it. It's not that big of a win, but it's a win for me because I was able to tell them apart, which I knew automatically because George Dickel is so strange. You can't confuse it with anything. All right, but thanks for watching now. So on to Canada.